Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. U.S. forces seized a tanker loaded with crude oil off the coast of Venezuela Wednesday as the Pentagon ramps up its military buildup in the Caribbean ahead of possible strikes on Venezuela. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the seizure of the 20-year-old tanker, named the skipper in a social media post accompanied by video showing soldiers rappelling from helicopters and pointing weapons at sailors. Bondi said Coast Guard, FBI, and Homeland Security officers carried out a seizure warrant for the tanker, which he said was used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. At the White House, President Trump confirmed the raid.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually.
We're interested in the seizure of this tanker. What happens to the oil on this ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Venezuela's government condemned the seizure as an act of international piracy. It comes after the Pentagon carried out more than 20 strikes on alleged drug boats that human rights groups have condemned as murder. Meanwhile, President Trump signaled Wednesday he may expand his attacks on alleged narco-traffickers to Colombia, following up his threats against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro with a new threat against Colombian President Gustavo Petro.
Colombia is producing a lot of drugs. They have cocaine factories that they make cocaine, as you know, and they sell it right into the United States. So he better wise up, or he'll be next. He'll be next, too.
We'll have more on this story after headlines. In Gaza, hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians are struggling to stay warm and dry as a fierce winter storm brings heavy rains and flash flooding to the territory. Forecasters are predicting 2 months' worth of rain to fall on Gaza within just 2 days, threatening to flood makeshift tents housing families. Already the storm has claimed at least one life. 8-month-old Rahaf Abu Jazar died of cold exposure earlier today after water flooded her family's tent in Khan Yunis. Meanwhile, Israel's military continues to violate the U.S.-brokered ceasefire deal it agreed to in October. Health officials report 4 bodies and 10 injured Palestinians were brought to hospitals over the last 24 hours. That brings the number of Palestinians killed since the October 10th truce was declared to 383. This is Abd al-Jarjawi, the aunt of a Palestinian killed in an Israeli airstrike Monday.
They were sitting in their home thinking they were safe because there is a ceasefire and nothing is happening. He was bombed while he was at home. His mother was few steps away from him. God saved her. There is no safety here. There is no consideration for the ceasefire. The war is still going on. People are bombed every day in their homes.
In Britain, 5 political prisoners awaiting trial for supporting the banned protest group Palestine Action have been hospitalized due to deteriorating health as a result of hunger strikes. It's now the largest coordinated hunger strike in UK prisons since the 1981 Irish Republican protest led by political prisoner Bobby Sands. On Capitol Hill, the House of Representatives has passed the $901 billion NDAA. That's the National Defense Authorization Act. Combined with the supplemental bill passed earlier this year, the NDAA would expand the U.S. military's budget to over $1 trillion. The bill drew bipartisan support, passing on a vote of 312 to 112, with 94 Democrats and 18 Republicans in opposition. Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar voted no. She said it was because, quote, Congress cannot continue writing blank checks for endless war while millions of Americans struggle to afford housing, health care, and basic necessities, unquote. The chair of the National Transportation Safety Board warned Wednesday a section in the National Defense Authorization Act would weaken safety measures near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. NTSB Chair Jennifer Hamondy specifically cited the board's investigation into the January 29th collision between an Army helicopter and a commercial jet that killed 67 people. The investigation found the military helicopter was not using enhanced tracking technology. The The recently passed defense authorization bill creates a waiver for military aircraft to turn off their enhanced tracking software while flying on national security missions through parts of the Washington, D.C. airspace.
This is a significant safety setback. It represents an unacceptable risk to the flying public, to commercial and military aircraft crews, and to the residents in the region. It's also an unthinkable dismissal of our investigation and of 67 families who lost loved ones in a tragedy that was entirely preventable. This is shameful.
In economic news, the Federal Reserve voted Wednesday to cut interest rates by a quarter point for the third time this year, but the vote to reduce rates was split 9-3. Usually the Fed votes unanimously when making major changes to the interest rate. This comes as the U.S. economy is reeling from tariffs, immigration crackdowns, and cuts to government spending. And despite inflation and unemployment ticking up in September, not to mention 4 months of job losses over the past 6 months, President Trump offered an optimistic assessment of the U.S. economy.
But I do want to talk about the economy, sir, here at home, and I wonder what grade you would give
A plus.
A plus.
Yeah, A plus, 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 plus.
President Trump was doing an interview with Politico. More than 200 environmental groups are demanding a national moratorium on the construction of data centers in the U.S. until new regulations are put in place. In an open letter addressed to Congress, the groups, which include Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, Food and Water Watch, write, quote, "The rapid, largely unregulated rise of data centers to fuel the AI and crypto frenzy is disrupting communities across the country and threatening Americans' economic, environmental, climate, and water security," unquote. Vermont's independent Senator Bernie Sanders urged opponents of AI data centers to keep up the pressure against elected officials.
In community after community, Americans are fighting back against data centers being built by some of the largest and most powerful corporations in the world. They are opposing the destruction of their local environment, soaring electric bills, and the diversion of scarce water supplies. Nationally, how will continued construction of AI data centers impact our environment?
A new report on global inequality shows the wealthiest 0.001% of multimillionaires and billionaires hold 3 times more wealth than the poorest half of humanity. Publishers of the World Inequality Report say their findings show the global wealth gap is much larger than most people imagine, with fewer than 60,000 wealthy people holding unprecedented financial power, while billions of the world's poor remain cut off from even basic economic stability. A federal judge in California has ordered the Trump administration to end its deployment of National Guard forces to Los Angeles and to return control of the troops to California Governor Gavin Newsom. District Judge Charles Breyer issued the preliminary injunction Wednesday after rejecting government claims that protests against Trump's immigration crackdown in L.A. amount to a rebellion. But Judge Breyer put the decision on hold until next Monday to give the Trump administration time to appeal. President Trump's officially launched a visa program that provides a pathway for wealthy non-citizens to get expedited permission to live and work in the United States. For a $1 million payment, visitors can obtain a Trump Gold Card that promises to expedite U.S. residency applications in record time. The administration says they'll soon offer a $5 million Trump Platinum Card, allowing visitors to avoid paying some U.S. taxes. Separately, new U.S. Customs and Border Protection rules published this week would require visitors from 42 countries on the visa waiver program to provide up to 5 years of their social media history, along with telephone numbers, email addresses, and biometric data, including DNA, face, fingerprint, and iris scans. This comes after the Trump administration recently told green card holders on the cusp of becoming U.S. citizens that their naturalization ceremonies have been canceled. Among those affected were immigrants who lined up at Boston's Faneuil Hall last week and prepared to pledge allegiance to the United States. The group Project Citizenship told radio station WGBH, quote, officers were asking everyone what country they were from, and if they said a certain country, they were told to step out of line and that their oath ceremonies were canceled, unquote. In Burma, at least 33 people were killed after forces loyal to the country's military leaders bombed a hospital in Rakhine State. The airstrike left dozens of people injured, including 27 in critical condition. The attack came on International Human Rights Day and ahead of elections set for the end of December. Burmese opposition groups are boycotting the election after major political parties were barred from running by the ruling military junta. And Bolivia's former president, Luis Arce, has been arrested in the capital La Paz as part of the government's investigation into alleged graft. Arce is accused of authorizing transfers from the public treasury to the personal accounts of political leaders when he served as economy minister under former President Evo Morales. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.